Hi, hello, good morning, dear students. Welcome to online classes for UG students COVID 19 crisis for the academic year 2020-21. This is Pinandi Ramreddy, lecturer in English, Government Degree College, Mahabubabad, District Mahabubabad. Today, our topic is the first year, second semester, first topic with the photographer, which was written by Stephen Leacock. Now let us see the images of Stephen Leacock. These are the images of Stephen Leacock, who was a humorous writer. See, all these are the Stephen Leacock's images. About the author, Stephen Leacock was born in 1869 and died in the year of 1944. Was an internationally known scholar. Born in England, he was educated in Canada at Toronto University, where he taught political economy for a few years. He later became head of the Department of Economics and Political Science at McGill University. His works include nonsense novels, Moonbeams from a Larger Lunacy, and Model Memories. This Stephen Leacock, he was born in the year of 1869 in England. He was an international known scholar. This Stephen Leacock was educated in Canada at Toronto University. He was completed his education from Toronto University. In Toronto University, he taught political economy for a few years, where he completed his post graduation. There he was worked as a teacher for few years. That was Toronto University at Canada. He later became head of the Department of Economics and Political Science at McGill University. After for a few years, he shifted from Toronto University to McGill University. There he became the head of the department, HOD of the Economics and Political Science. His works include nonsense novels, Moonbeams from a Larger Lunacy, and Model Memories. While he was, in addition to his teaching profession, he he did his writings, or he wrote. Those are his main books are nonsense novels, Moonbeams from a Larger Lunacy, and Model Memories. With the photographer is an extract from Behind the Beyond. It is an amusing tale depicting the idiosyncrasies of a photographer that cause discomfiture to the person who goes to have his photograph taken. Enlivened by Leacock's playful irony, the story makes a telling comment on the photographer and his ways. See, this with the photographer, what the topic we are going to discuss the topic is with the photographer. It was an extract from Behind the Beyond. It was taken from the Behind the Beyond. It is an amusing tale. The Behind the Beyond was an amusing story, amusing tale depicting the idiosyncrasies of a photographer that cause discomfiture to the person who goes to have his photograph taken. Okay, once this our narrator means our Stephen Leacock, he visits the photo studio to have a photography, to take a photograph. There, how and what he faced the situations, how he was treated by the photographer, everything he was written here through the humorously enlivened by Leacock's playful irony. This is completely with ironically he was written. The story makes a telling comment on the photographer and his ways. It is in this he says the telling comments on the photographer and his ways, how he behaves, the photographer, how he behaves. All the narrator comments on his attitude, on his movements. He visits the photograph and he says, I want my photograph taken, I said. The photographer looked at enthusiasm. He was a thin man in a grey suit with the dim eyes of a natural scientist. But there is no need to describe him. Everybody knows what a photographer is like. Sit there, he said, and wait. I waited an hour. I read, I read the ladies' comparison for 1912, the girls' magazine for 1902, and the infants' journal for 1888. I began to see that I had done impertinent thing in breaking in on the privacy of this man's scientific pursuit with a face like mine. He wanted to take a photography, to have a photocopy photograph. He visited the photo studio and he asked the photographer what. I want my photograph taken. When he entered the studio and he says, I want my photograph taken, means he wanted to take the photography. See here, all the people are having today that passion to have the photographies like with electronic gadgets like mobiles, the selfies, and our front camera or back camera, like we are taking the photocopies. Now the young generation is having very much passion to have the photos, and some of the people, while with this passion they are losing their lives also. It is a very tragedy thing. In this is another side. So he this our narrator who visits the photo studio and he says with the studio man, I want my photograph taken, I want to take a photocopy, he says. The photographer looked at enthusiasm. That photographer also, he looked at him with enthusiasm. He was a thin man in a grey suit. Our narrator was describing the photographer how he was. He was a thin man in a grey suit with the dim eyes of natural scientist. He was a thin man and a grey suit, and he was looking like a natural scientist. That photographer was looking like a natural scientist. But our narrator, he described about the photographer and he said, but there is no need to describe him. We need not to discuss much about the photographer. Everybody knows what a photographer is like, and say everybody knows how the photographer is and what a photographer is like. The photographer said, when he looked at him, when he asked the photographer, I want to take my photography, the photographer answered, okay, sit there, he said, and wait. I waited an hour. He asked him to sit there. Actually, the photo studio was with two rooms. This photographer is one in the dark room, in inside room, and he asked the narrator to sit in the front room. Our narrator was sit there, and he said, and wait. The photographer said, sit there and wait. I wait. I will come to you, like he was said. He was waited there for an hour. During his waiting period, our narrator read the ladies' comparison for 1912. By the time he was completed that novel, ladies' comparison for 1912, he was read it. The girls' magazine for 1902. This one also he was read. He was finished, and the infants' journal for 1888. This one also he was the infants also he was completed. I began to see that I had done impertinent thing in breaking in on the privacy of this man's scientific pursuit with a face like mine. So he himself thought, am I disturbing, maybe disturbing him, like the scientist, the natural scientist, am I disturbing him, like he was thought. See, this is the Photo studio in olden days, our photo studios like this, old lay studios. This is the open gallery. See here, it is there. The open gallery was there. He went and our narrator was visited this studio. The photographer was working in that studio. How it is, just you look at this photo studio. If you want to see more images, you can search the Google to get the more images. How the olden days studios were how they were. But today's studios were different. But in those days, how the studios were, you can see through the Google. See how the photo studios were there, how the photographer was working in the studio. This is our narrator. He sat in the front hall and he was reading the novels. After an hour, the photographer opened the inner door. Come in, he said severely. I went into the studio. Sit down, said the photographer. I sat down in a beam of sunlight filtered through a sheet of factory cotton hung against a frosted window. So after an hour, our photographer was waited in the front hall for an hour, and he was read the novels. Three novels he was completed during the hour. By the after an hour, the photographer called him. He opened the door and he invited. He asked him to enter in, means into the inner side room, the second room. He was asked to enter in. He said severely, not politely. He was said with severely. I went into the studio. When he was called him, our narrator went into the studio. Then the photographer asked him to sit down. He was asked him to sit down at somewhere else at the place. I sat down in a beam of sunlight filtered through a sheet of factory cotton hung against a frosted window. He sat where the filtered beam of sunlight was falling down through the window. The window was hanged with the cotton cotton hang against the frosted window. The photographer rolled a mission to the middle of the room and crawled into it from behind. Then the photographer he went to the mission and he rolled the mission into the middle room to take a photocopy. Means to straight to the this our narrator. He adjusted the mission to the face of in front to take the photo of the narrator. The direct face to face, he was adjusted the mission to take a photocopy. See how the photographer, he was a gray and white suited and like looking like a scientist. See him how he is, and he was adjusting the mission. The photographer was adjusting the mission. See how he was adjusting. You can see here how the photographer was adjusting the mission. You can see here. He was our narrator. Okay, he was in only a second, just time enough for one look at me, and then he was out again, tearing at the cotton sheet and the window panes with a hooked stick, apparently frantic for light and air. Okay, just he looked at him for a second, and just time enough for one look at me. Just he looked at him for 1 minute, one look for a second, and then he was out again. And then he left the place. He was out, tearing at the cotton sheet and the window panes. He tore the cotton sheet and window panes with a hooked stick. With what the stick he was having, the hooked stick. With that he tore that. Apparently frantic for light and air. He removed those things to get the sun, that light. Then he crawled back into the mission again and drew a little black cloth over himself. This time he was very quiet in there. I knew that he was praying and he kept still. When the photographer came out at last, he looked very grave and shook his head. Okay, after adjusting the cotton cloth, that window, he came in again. The photographer came into the room and he again went to the mission and he covered with the black cloth over himself. This time he was very quiet in there. He was that photographer was very quiet at the mission. Then our narrator was thinking, I knew that he was praying and kept still. Under the cloth, our narrator was thinking the photographer was praying to get a good coffee. When the photographer came out at last, he looked very grave and shook his head. After he came out from the cloth and he is looking with grave and shook his head. See how the photo that camera was in those days. That was the cloth which he was covered the backside of the camera. And now he came out from the cloth. Here he came out from the cloth and he was saying, how you are, how you are looking. The face is quite wrong. See, mister, he was saying to our narrator, the face is quite wrong, he said. Your face is quite wrong. Then our narrator was answering, no, I answered quietly. It is known to me. I know. I have always known. About my face, I know it. He said. I think he said the face would be better three quarters full. Your face would be better three quarters full. Just you see, I will show you the imagine. I'm sure it would, I said enthusiastically, for I was glad to find that the man had such a human side to him. When he was said the three quarters full, then our narrator was thought this photographer also having some human side to make fun. Like when he heard the word, he felt a little bit glad. Oh, the photographer also having the little bit fun on the human. So would yours. In fact, I continued, how many faces one sees that are apparently hard, narrow, limited, but the minute you get them three quarters full, they get wide, large, almost boundless in. See how it is, he was describing the face. How, but the minute you get them three quarters full, they get wide, large, almost boundless in. See how he was looking with the three quarters full, how his eyes, how he was looking. You see the how the narrator was looking. But the photographer had ceased to listen. When our photo right narrator was saying, the photographer was not have the patience to listen. He says he stopped to listen. He came over and took my head in his hands and twisted it sideways. He came to the narrator hand like this, and he touched his head and twisted here and there to adjust his face in front of the camera. I thought he meant to kiss me. When he was coming to him, when he was coming close to the narrator was thought the photographer was coming to me to kiss me. And I closed my eyes. With the fear, our narrator was closed his eyes like this. But I was wrong. But my imagination, my expectation was wrong. What the narrator was saying, but I was wrong. What I was expected, it was wrong. He twisted my face as far as it would go and then stood looking at it. He came to this narrator and touched with his hands his head and twisted his face to adjust straight to the camera. He sighed again. And also he was saying, I don't like the head, he said. And what he was saying, I don't like the head. See how he was adjusting in the imagine. You can see how the photographer was adjusting the narrator's head. See the situation also is looking how the narrator was expected. Like the narrator was expected. The photographer is coming to me to kiss me, but the situation also is looking like that. But it's not. He did not come to kiss him. Just he came to adjust his head. Say the photographer how he was severely looking at him. You can understand how he was with this picture. Then he went back to the mission and took another look. And after adjusting his head, again the photographer went back to the mission and you want to take another look. And he was asking him, open the mouth a little, he said. I started to do so, close it, he added quickly, then he looked again. When he asked to open his mouth, he opened just like, ah. Then the photographer asked to close that, and he added quickly, then he looked again. And what he was said, see, again he asked him to open little bit. Then our narrator was opened his mouth little bit. You can see here how he was opened his mouth in this picture. The ears are bad. When he was looking at the narrator's ears, the photographer was saying, the ears are bad. He said, drop them a little more. Thank you. Now he was moving as per the directions of the photographer. Our narrator was moving as per the directions of the photographer. The photographer asked to drop your ears little. Then he did okay. Thank you. Now the eyes, and again he was asked to adjust the eyes. He did. Roll them in under the eyelids. Just you roll your eyes under the eyelids. Put the hands on the knees. He was asked to put your hands on the knees, please, and turn the face just a little upwards. After adjusting, you turn your face little upwards like this. Yes, that's better. Now this angle is better. This is good. Now just expand the lung. Now you breathe. Expand the lung means you breathe like this. You breathe. You expand your lung. So, and bend the neck like this. You bend the neck. That's it. Just contract the face. You look at directly to the camera. It's just a little too full, but I swung myself round on the stool. He on the stool he was round here and there. You can see how he was adjusted his hands. You can see through this photo how the narrator was adjusted. Stop, I said with emotion. When he was moving here and there on the stool, the photographer said, stop. I said with emotion. Sorry, the narrator said, stop with emotion. But I think with dignity. This face is my face. This is the face which is mine. It's not yours. It's not your face. It's mine. He was saying, our narrator was saying, this face is mine. It's not yours. It's mine. I have lived with it for 40 years and I know its faults. See, Mr. Photographer, I know how my face is. I lived this face for 40 years. What are the faults in my face? I knew it. I know it's not beautiful. I know exactly. My face was not beautiful. I know it wasn't made for me. And also this face was not made for me. But in spite of it's my face, the only one I have. I was conscious of a break in my voice, but I went on. Such as it is, I have learned to love it. And this is my mouth, not yours. These ears are mine. And if your mission is too narrow, here I started to rise from the seat. See, stop, I said with emotion, but I think with dignity. This face is my face. It's not yours. It's mine. I have lived with it for 40 years and I know it's false. I know it's not beautiful. I know it wasn't made for me. But it's my face, the only one I have. I was conscious of a break in my voice, but I went on. Such as it is, I have learned to love it. And this is my mouth, not yours. These ears are mine. And if your mission is too narrow, here I started to rise from the seat. So our narrator was saying with the photographer, stop, don't speak more, don't ask me more. With emotion, our narrator was said. I think and he was saying it, though it is in emotion mood, but it is with dignity. He was saying, this face is my face. This face is my face. It's not yours. It's not your face. It is mine. I have lived with it for 40 years. I have lived with this face for 40 years. And I know its faults. I know what the faults I am having. I know it's not beautiful, and also I knew my face was not beautiful. You need not to give any certificate. You need not to say your face is not beautiful. I know it wasn't made for me, and also I know this face was not made for me, but it's my face. But though it's not made for me, it's my face. The only one I have, the face only one I have. I was conscious of a break in my voice. He was saying there was a break in his voice, but he was in conscious mode. But I went on. Like he was saying to the photographer, I went on such as it is. I have learned to love it. I love my face, he was saying. And this is my mouth. What the mouth I'm having, it's mine. It is not yours mouth. These ears are mine. These ears also not yours. These are my ears. And if your mission is too narrow, here I started to rise from the seat. He, your mission is too narrow. It's not big. It's not long to take a photo like me. So he wanted to rise and wanted to go leave the hall. See how he is looking at him. Sneak, the photographer had pulled the string. The photographer was taken. I could see the mission still shaking from the shock, I think, said the photographer with a pleased smile. That I caught the feathers just in a moment of animation. Okay, here the photographer was saying, Snake, the photographer had pulled the string and he was starting to take. The photographer was taken the photocopy. I could see the mission still shaking from the shock, and the photographer was saying, this mission, it was still shaking in the shock when it looks at your when it looks at your face. It was shocked. This mission was shocked. It was still in shock moment. I think the said the photographer. The photographer was said it. Still the mission was shocked, under shocked, with a pleased smile. How he was said? He was said with a pleased smile that I caught the feathers just in a moment of animation. Then he wanted to sorry, he caught the feathers just in a moment of animation. So I said brightly, features a, you did not think I could animate them, I suppose, but let me see the picture. After taking the photocopy, this our narrator, he wanted to ask a photo. That photographer, let me see the picture. He was asking, I will see the picture. Oh, there is nothing to see it, he said. Then the photographer was saying, oh, there is nothing to see it. Now we did not get anything. There is nothing to see. I have to develop the negative first. Now I have to develop the negative. After only we will get a photocopy. In earlier, in those days, with the negatives only they use it to develop the photos. Today the total photography technology was changed. Directly we are getting the photocopies with digital colors, with 3D colors. But in those days it was not there. The photographer was saying, this is only the negative. I have to develop this negative first. After that only we will get the photocopy. Come back on Saturday and I will let you proof of it. Okay, he was the photographer was said with the narrator. Okay, just it is a negative. I have to develop the negative, and you will come back on Saturday. By then I will show you the that photo. On Saturday I went back. On Saturday our narrator went back to the studio. He came to the studio. The photographer beckoned me in. I thought he seemed quicker and graver than before. I think too there was a certain pride in his manner. Okay, when he entered the photo studio, he was observed the photographer's condition. I thought he seemed to quieter and graver than before. He was quieter and graver than before means when he came the first time. I think too there was a certain pride in his manner. He is looking like a pride man. why he developed the photocopy. He unfolded the proof of a large photograph and we both looked at it in silence. Is it me? I asked. The photographer also, he was not unfolded the photocopy. It was large. We, with these both people, the photographer and the narrator, those two people were looked at the photocopy. Then he asked, is it me? The narrator was asked the photographer, is it me? The photographer was answering, yes, he said quietly, it's you. And he went on looking at it. Yes, mister, this is you. He was looking at it, and he was telling about the photocopy, how he was made, and looking at it. The eyes, I said, hesitating. These eyes, the eyes are mine? Like he was hesitatingly, he was asking. Don't look very much like me. The eyes are not looking like my eyes. Oh no, he answered. The photographer was answered. No, no, the eyes are not yours. I have retouched them. Just I was animated, I was adjusted them to your photocopy. They come out splendidly, don't they? With adding that eyes to your photocopy, it is looking like a splendidly. It means beautiful, don't they? Are they not looking like? Fine, I said. But surely my eyebrows are not like that. See, that eyebrows which were arranged there are also not like that, means not like me. No, said the photographer with a momentary glance at my face. With a glance, he was saying, no, those are not yours. The eyebrows are removed. The eyebrows, yours eyebrows are removed. We have a process now for putting in new ones. We are doing the process to add the new ones. Means in new photocopy your eyebrows will come. You will notice here we have applied it to carry the hair away from the below. I don't like the hair low and the skull. So you will notice here we have applied it to carry. See, mister, like he was saying with our narrator, see how we are applied your hair and everything. See. Oh, you don't you? I said. No, he went on. I don't care for it. I like to get the hair back further and make out a new line. See, I want my brows, my eyebrows, my ears. What about the mouth? I said with a bitterness that was lost on the photographer. Is that mine? Okay, the mouth. What about the mouth? I said with a bitterness that was lost on the photographer. Is that mine? Okay. He was asking the only mouth. The mouth belongs to whom? I'm asking the last one. It is adjusted a little. He said, it is adjusted a little or mine? Yours is too low. I found I couldn't use it. The ears, though I said strike me as a good likeness, they are just like mine. Though whatever it is, though are not good, but they should look like mine. Yes, said the photographer thoughtfully. That is so, but I can fix that all right in the print. We have a process now for removing the ears entirely. I will see if. Okay, now the process was going on. While we are getting the final copy, we will adjust in the final copy. Listen, I interrupted, drawing myself up and animating my features to their full extent and speaking with a bitterness that should have blasted the man on the spot. Then he was saying, you need not to adjust anything, just to give the copy how I am. You give as my feature, how I have the features as all the things you give on my photo. I came here for a photograph, a picture, something which bad though it seems would have looked like me. I came here not I came here to get a photocopy, not to adjusted copy. So how I am, though it is bad, which looks bad, but you give me how I am, what I expect, the same copy you give to me. Like he was the discussion was going on between the photographer and between our narrator. See how the discussion was going on. See, when they looked at the photocopy, then the narrator was asking the photographer. The photographer was explaining. Finally, the narrator was asking the photographer to give my original copy, not the adjusted copy. The discussion was going on between those two people. I wanted something that would depict my face as heaven gave it to me. See, I wanted my face, what heaven gave to me, what God gave to me. Humble though the gift may have been, it was the gift which was given by God to me. I wanted something that my friends might keep after my death to reconcile them to my loss. Okay, if I leave this world, if I die, my friends have to recognize, my friends have to remember, keep in their mind my only it is possible with my original face, not with the adjusted face. So I want my original photocopy, you do that. It seems that I was mistaken. It is looking I was mistaken to enter your studio. What I wanted is not done. For what I came and what I wanted is not done in your studio. He was discussing with the photographer. What I wanted is not done. Go on then with your brutal work. You go on. And it means you go and do what I want. Why? What photocopy I'm asking? You go and prepare the photocopy and give to me. Take your negative or whatever it is you call it. You take your negative copy or whatever you call with the name. You take this one. Dip it in anything you like. This negative you dip anywhere, either in the ground, either in the water, or anywhere which you like. But you dip in there. You put there or whatever it is you call it. Sir, dip it in anything like you like. Remove the eyes, you remove the eyes which you were adjusted, correct the mouth, adjust the face. And in this negative you were in this copy you were adjusted all the things, you remove all the things and you adjust the originality what I have. Restore the lips and you give my lips, you restore my lips, reanimate the new voice and reconstruct the west coast, and everything you rearrange and make it original copy, not the duplicate copy. Coat it with an inch of gloss, shade it, guide it till even you acknowledge that it is finished. Then when you have done all that, keep it for yourself and your friends that may value it. To me it is but a worthless trifle. I burst into tears and left. Coat it with an inch of glass, and also you could make with the inch of glass, you coat the photocopy with the inch of glass and shade it, gild it till even you acknowledge that it is finished, though you feel it is finished, but you do again and you prepare that one. Then when you have done all that and you have to do all the things, keep it for yourself and your friends. Okay, after completion of all the things, you keep it for yourself and your friends that may value it, then only it will be valued, otherwise there is no value for it. To me it is but a worthless trifle. But it is it is a worthless trifle to me. I burst into tears and left. Like the narrator, he cried, he burst into tears and left the studio. Here, the glossary. Some glossary words are here. Let us see what are the glossary words. Impertinent. Here, impertinent means impolite. Here, used ironically. See, when the narrator entered the studio, the photographer received him with impertinent, means with impolite, not with politeness. Generally, the photographers they should receive the customers with politeness, but here the photographer who looked like a scientist was not received with polite. He was received the narrator with impertinent. So he was used the word here impertinent. Next, pursuit. Pursuit means the act of chasing something to obtain it. In pursuit, here the act of chasing something to obtain. Here the photographer, he was doing the pursuit on the photo, and the three quarters full, he was used, the photographer used the word while he was adjusting the narrator's face in front of the camera. He was used this word, three quarters full. See, what do you mean by the three quarters full? Partly from one side and partly from the front. See here, three quarters full means partly from one side, means just a little part from one side, and partly from the front. Partly from the front side. He was said, your face is looking like three quarters full. Next, contract. To shrink, to reduce in size, means to contract means to reduce in size. Contract means to reduce in size, means to make the photo he has to contract. Proof, the testing copy of anything, example photo, book, or anything. So proof copy, you come on sir, he was used the word, you come on Saturday, I will give you the proof copy. Next, gold coated, after making, you gild the photocopy, means you make with gold coated, he was said, you prepare with gold coated. Okay, thank you. See, this is the story which was written by Stephen Leacock, which was the humorous story for degrees first years, second semester students. Thank you, students, for having the patience to listen to my class. Thank you once again. Thank you to all. Let's meet again with another new topic tomorrow by this time. Thank you once again.